Hello, and welcome to Tell Me About Your Book. My name is John Christian. Today my guest is self-published author Aurelio O'Brien. He will be talking about the 3 books he has written. The subject matter therein ranges from teenage cheerleaders to extraterrestrial families. Now, if that doesn't spark interest in you, I don't know what will. So, stay tuned. Hi, Aurelio. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you. It's really nice to be here.
My pleasure. We're going to be talking about 3 books that you've written. Is that
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yes.
Well, tell me about the first one.
Well, my first book, it was interesting. It's kind of a what if book. And, this was back, 2004 was when I first published it. And back then, genetic engineering was just starting to break. And they had like Dolly the cloned sheep. And, they were working on the Human Genome Project and almost there. And so all this stuff was going on. Test tube babies were now a thing, and I kind of thought, well, what if we crack the genetic code for like all life forms, and we can just kind of reconfigure life however we choose? I mean, what kind of future would that be? And that was kind of the spark for the book.
And what's the title of the book?
The book is called Eve, and the meaning of the title, of course, being kind of the eve of a new era, and then also one of my main characters in the book is actually named Eve, so it
Okay.
has sort of a double meaning.
Does it take place in the future?
Yes, it does. It takes place in a purely genetic future. There's no more technology anymore, just biology, which is kind of a fun factor for the book, was to create this world where we have, rather than machines, we have what I call creature comforts. And so they kind of take care of things like, instead of a dishwasher, you would have what I call a lick and span, which is a tongue-lined sink with, you know, uh, lined with tongues that lick your dishes clean for you. And it's a very strange world, kind of a beautiful world, but kind of creepy at the same time.
Oh, wow.
And so within this creepy world, there's one still functioning robot named Pincer, and he's the first person storyteller. And he's trying to tell the story of how the whole world went awry, and he's not very happy about it. But he inadvertently ends up kind of telling a love story about his primary user, this guy named Govel, who's a genetic engineer of the future, designing all these things. And Govel is kind of bored with all the perfection and sort of all the knowing, like being able to make everything just exactly the way you want it. And so he kind of decides, it's almost like a Pygmalion in reverse. Like instead of creating the perfect woman, he deliberately creates the imperfect woman. And so that's kind of the fun of the story. And then of course it turns out to be this kind of tender love story in the middle of this very strange world.
Okay. So the woman he creates is the
Is
Eve
named
character.
Eve. Well,
Eve.
he names her Eve kind of
Yeah.
after the Bible story, takes the genetics from his own rib, and then
Wow.
randomizes the rest, and creates Eve. And of course, Eve has a mind of her own, so
Mm-hmm.
that sparks the interest in the story, and kind of he got what he wanted, but didn't really know what he was asking for, sort of. So
Wow. I'd like to ask you more of the book, but I don't want you to give away too
yeah,
much.
I don't want to give away too much of the
Oh,
plot. It's very fun, but the story is surprisingly heartwarming in the middle of this very strange future. And I mean, I was happy with the world I created for this book, because nobody's really created a future like this. All the
mm.
futures that you see are kind of technology and sort of Blade Runner-ish sort of thing. And this just goes to a whole different place. Like one of my friends said, well, it's kind of like a futuristic Flintstones kind of.
Yeah, that's the feeling I got too.
Yeah. So it is a lot of fun, and the book's done pretty well.
So that was written in 2004.
Yes.
What came next after that?
Well, after that, I started working on what I call my epic, which is a book entitled Generation Extraterrestrial. I was born in the space race age, and my father was an aerospace engineer. So I was always raised around, technology and space, and science fiction was always something that I enjoyed. So I started to explore the whole idea of, aliens, space aliens, and people who have, claim abduction and, sightings and things like that. And the whole lore surrounding that was kind of interesting to me. So I wrote a book that kind of goes where people that have been abducted, they claim they've been abducted and probed and all that kind of stuff, and they've been impregnated. And so the kind of the setup for the book is a bunch of what I call nut cookies from all over the United States start having these alien babies. And it's really a story. It's told from a different perspective than most stories like this. It's really kind of told from the point of view of all my alien kids growing up on a strange world. And I mean, they are the aliens, and so they are kind of trying to figure it all out. And why are they here, and what's it all about? And then they're either specially gifted, they're different, and it kind of turned out to be the ultimate outsider story. And it's a lot of fun. Again, it's a lot of social satire, sibling rivalries, and like an alien kid growing up in a family with human brothers and sisters. And how does all that work? And I tried to keep it very real. I did a lot of research. I mean, it's funny when you think of people writing fiction, like if you were writing nonfiction, you would do a lot of research. But I think if you talk to most fiction writers, we do a lot of research as well, because you want it to be authentic, you want it to be plausible. And so I, even took trips to Roswell, to the alien museum out there, and went to Meteor Crater and things like that. We did kind of a big road trip in preparation for the book. I did tons of research. I got all the books on alien abductions and scanned through all those. And what I tried to also do with the book was to take all that lore and really make sense out of it, in a kind of a funny way. Like what are crop circles and why, and like one of the things is finding dead cows in the fields and that the aliens have killed, and what's that all about, and all this thing, and the aluminum foil hats. So in the book I give actual reasons for all those things, the ancient alien theories, all that kind of stuff. So it all in my own little kind of fake world I created, it all makes sense.
Yeah. And that's pretty important when you're writing science fiction or fantasy. I'm somewhat familiar with that. Making things plausible.
Yes.
Doesn't sound like that makes sense, but it's very important. Did you find that difficult to do? A lot of research?
It was a lot of research. Once I got into the book, though, I tend to write books that are character driven. And what was interesting is, as I got to know my alien kids, because we kind of watch them grow up from the time they're born to their 21st birthdays. So that's why I call it an epic, because you follow them through pretty much their whole life to adulthood. And I just fell in love with them, and they became like my children. I mean, I look at the book and it's kind of like, oh, my kids, So when I write, having done all the research, all that is kind of back in my head, and then the characters start to come alive for me. And at a certain point, it's almost like they start writing the story.
Yeah.
It's kind of done in 10 episodes, and every episode kind of has a cliffhanger. So I sort of set it up so that as you finish an episode, you go, oh, what's going to happen next?
So you call them episodes and not chapters?
I called them episodes, yes, episodes, because when I first released it, I released it purely as an ebook in individual episodes. Unfortunately, nobody was interested in that. So I kept getting notes from people going, when is it going to be out in print? So people wanted the print book. So now it's in print, and actually I like it better in print. I think it just works better in print. So.
Have you had requests for audiobooks?
I haven't tried that yet, and I kind of don't really know even how to pursue that. I
Right.
should probably check into it. I do have a friend. She's a voice. She does it as a job. She's a voice reader for audiobooks.
Hmm.
So I should probably talk to her at some point and see, well, how would I go about doing it? But I'm not really sure how. So
Yeah, you need the right gear and all that, and
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
the right sort of chutzpah, I suppose.
yeah.
But yeah,
So
sometimes.
that's Generation Extraterrestrial, and
Okay.
it's a lot of fun.
And your third book?
And my third book is called I Was a Teenage Cheerleader. It's kind of a werewolf in reverse kind of, I mean, on the surface, it seems kind of spoofy. It's about a teenage brainy girl who gets bitten by an angry cheerleader, and on game days and rally schedules and things like that, she transforms into, you know, the most beautiful cheerleader in the school. So she's sort of ends up leading this double life and trying to navigate that. Because meanwhile, she's always had a big crush on the star football player, and of course, the social rules are the star football player, you know, dates the star cheerleader, doesn't date the brainy girl. So I kind of play with all kind of high school is sort of a microcosm of the world in a sense,
Yeah.
and the way things are structured out. And so the spark of this book, it was interesting. I saw an article in a magazine, and it had a whole spread on one of the supermodels, and I don't remember which one, some beautiful young blonde supermodel, and how much money she was making. And then they showed her like sitting in her mansion in this fabulous, you know, like 16-foot ceiling mansion thing. And I was just going, you know, just kind of amazed uh, at our culture, because we so value pretty, you know, like pretty is this thing that's worth this much money that you would pay this girl to kind of sit and let us look at her. You know, I mean, like when you think about it in those terms, it's just so odd, and
Yeah.
but it is very powerful that way. And it made me think of how, in absence of all else, it's kind of monstrous, really.
Yeah. That's what inspired you to write the book?
Yes, so that was my inspiration for the book.
Hmm.
And
Hmm. And when did you write that book?
2018 was when I first published that.
Okay. How's that one doing?
That was, I think, my most popular one so far. And I think because a lot of people really relate to it. I mean, there's that hierarchy, that pyramid that you have when you're in high school, and you know, there's the people at the top, and then there's the people in the middle, and the people at the bottom. And interestingly, like, you know, student government and brainy people and all that kind of stuff, they were always at the bottom of the pyramid. And it almost seems like the pyramid should be inverted the other way around, because, you know, it's just kind of the star athletes and the pretty people, you know, were all at the top. And so
Mm.
I kind of play with that whole aspect of society
Okay. Social
metaphorically.
commentary on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Well, social satire seems to be, you know, my books are very different from each other, and because they're just whatever ideas come into my head, I
Yeah.
think, oh, that'll make a nice story. So I do that. But the one thing that seems to tie them all together is the social satire elements of it, because
Okay.
I find humanity, and I find all of us, I find myself kind of funny. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like we do these things or say these things, or you know, things that really concern us, and then we realize later, why was I so concerned about that? It seems really silly. I mean, we're kind of silly, so and that amuses me.
So when did you start with the idea that you're going to write a book? What caused you to start writing in the first place?
Well, that was interesting. It was a kind of an evolution, because I had worked in the movie business, and I was writing spec screenplays and trying to pitch those around. And Eve actually was originally a screenplay. So I was working on a project, and the writer on the project, the screenwriter, I asked him kind of timidly, you know, because he was a professional screenwriter, I was just a wannabe. I said, well, would you read my spec script and give me any kind of pointers? And he read it, and he was really complimentary. He said, oh, I really liked it. I thought it was great. You're never going to sell it. And I was like, really? Why? You know, I was really disappointed. And he said, well, because it's so different. And he said what I would do is write it as a novel first, and then if the novel sells, then they'll come after you for the screenwrites, and then you can write the screenplay. I thought, well, I don't really want. Do I want to write a novel? I don't know. It's like, so I novelized it, and I had so much fun writing the novel and using the format of a novel. You can get inside characters' heads and all these things you can't do in a screenplay. And I just loved it. And so once I wrote Eve as a novel, I kind of really didn't care about the screenplay anymore. It was like, and then I just started writing novels because that all it just was so I don't want to say effortless, but it kind of felt that way.
Yeah.
It just was a really good fit for me. So.
Yeah. When you're on a roll,
Yeah.
I usually say it's writing itself, or a song is just playing itself. Of course, there's a lot of skill
Isn't
involved,
that funny? Yeah.
it just, when it's right,
You just
it's right.
know kind of
You just know.
instinctually that
Yeah.
this is working. So,
That's right.
yeah.
You seem very happy about it.
I am. It's been really fun. I'm working on a new one now that I'm hoping sometime next year to have ready for publishing. And it's completely different, of course. Once again, I'm very excited about it. I'm nervous about it because it's interesting. Like probably my weirdest book so far was my first one, Eve, and then the other two not as weird. And then, but this one kind of is pretty weird. So I'm curious to see, because I've developed a little bit of a readership since the first one, and my readers, I'm kind of wondering what they're going to think of this new one, because it's pretty strange. It's a kind of a surrealist novel. So.
Yeah. Well, you seem to be on a roll with these fantasies and these.
Yeah.
Social satire. Social satire is part of that book as well, I imagine.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Of course. Yeah.
Kind of an examination of everything. Okay. It's a very ambitious book conceptually, so we'll see. Oh. Fingers crossed.
I'm looking forward to hearing more about that next year.
Thank you.
So that
maybe I can come back next year.
So that'll be in 2023, just for those who are watching.
Well, hopefully,
at a later date. Sure. Yeah. Well, tell the people where we can find your 3 books.
Well, all my books are on Amazon. Probably the easiest way to find them is go onto Amazon and Google Aurelio O'Brien. And since I'm the only Aurelio O'Brien on there,
okay,
you'll find the link to my page.
Well, I'll be putting a link in the comments below here.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. The books are all available both as Kindle format and print. Yeah. It's
been a lot of fun listening to you describe these wild stories.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I do have fun, and my hope is that when people read them, they have just as much fun as I had writing them. Because it's really silly, but I'll be writing and I'll be laughing or crying or whatever as I'm doing it. It's like I'm very emotionally invested in these things, I guess.
Yeah. All right. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, Aurelio. And I wish you well in the future.
Thank you very much. Well, hopefully I'll be back. I would love that.
Yeah, looking forward to that too. Next year. You take care now.
You too. Thank you.
Bye-bye. And that's our show for today. If you like what I do here on Tell Me About Your Book, then hit the like button and subscribe. And don't forget to ring that bell for future notifications. And if you are a self-published author, I would really like to speak with you. Until such time, keep on writing and be kind to one another.